Scientists are now warning us. Volcano warning as smaller eruptions risk cascading us towards catastrophe. And I'm going to make another video concerning what is going on the West Coast today along Canada, Alaska, Canada, and the West Coast of the United States. Now, smaller volcanic eruptions could pose a greater risk to global society, a risk cascading us towards catastrophe. This is according to a study released by the University of Cambridge. NASA has confirmed that the recent volcanic eruption in Tonga was hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped in Hiroshima during World War II. More than 4/5 of the Tongan population have been affected by the subsequent tsunami and falling ash. Just 7 years ago, new land emerged in the South Pacific, linking the island of Hunga Tonga and Hunga Haupai together. The recent eruption destroyed the new land and large chunks of much of the two older islands, NASA said. It's widely believed that the bigger the eruption risk, the worse it will be for society, of course. However, research published in the journal Nature Communications by University of Cambridge last year suggested too much focus is being placed on the risk of the bigger, rarer eruptions. Researchers in British University Centre for Study of Existential Risk, CSER, argued too little attention is given to more moderate eruptions in various regions and the potential domino effect that could result from these. So the next video I will be making is concerning what earthquakes are taking place on the West Coast, all along Alaska, Canada, and the Western United States. This is today's earthquake activity. Let's remember that all that is a volcanic area. Now, the identified 7 pinch points were clusters of small active volcanoes that sit near crucial infrastructure. These regions include Taiwan, North Africa, North Atlantic, and parts of Western United States. Of course, United States meaning Alaska, Western Canada, and all the way down to California. Dr. Lara Manny, leader, author of the report, called the world to change how we view extreme volcanic risk. She said back of last year, we need to move away from thinking in terms of colossal eruptions destroying the world as portrayed in Hollywood films. She says a more probable scenario involved lower magnitude eruptions interacting with our societal vulnerabilities and cascading us towards catastrophe. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. The Tonga eruption was so intense, and let's remember this was an underwater volcano. It was so intense that it was heard as loud thunder sounds in Fiji, which was 500 miles away. Now, the more probable scenario involved lower magnitude eruptions interacting with our societal vulnerabilities, cascading us towards catastrophe, she said. And she adds, even a minor eruption in one of the areas we identified could erupt enough ash or generate large enough tremors to disrupt networks that are central to global supply chains and financial systems. She says at the moment, calculations are too skewed towards giant explosions or nightmare scenarios when the more likely risks come from moderate events that disable major international communications, trade networks, or transport hubs. It's true of earthquakes and extreme weather as well as volcanic eruptions, she said. Now, larger eruptions with a volcanic explosivity index of 8, the largest value on the index, tend to be associated with most catastrophic eruptions. The most recent eruption to measure VEI8 was the Taupo eruption that happened around 26,500 years ago. It's in the North Island of New Zealand, as we know. The most recent eruption to measure 7 VEI was Mount Tambora eruption of 1815. Yet Dr. Manny and her colleagues argue small eruptions reach up to 6 on the VI scale, and they could easily cause catastrophic eruptions. When Mount Pinatubo erupted in 1991, it measured VI 6, but its distance from vital infrastructure meant it caused less overall damage than others. And the 2010 eruption of Iceland's volcano, meanwhile, was 100 times less than Mount Pinatubo, but caused great damage as northwesterly winds carried that ash cloud and caused European airspace to be closed. The Mediterranean was also identified as another pinch point. Both Mount Vesuvius and the island of Santorini, that was what erupted at the time of Moses and the 12 tribes of Israel coming out of Egypt. Okay, so the Santorini volcano could produce eruptions large enough to cause tsunamis that could seal off the Suez Canal, the report said. Dr. Manny wrote, "We saw what a 6-day closure of the Suez Canal did earlier this year when a single stuck container ship cost up to $10 billion in a week of global trade." So likewise, eruptions in American state of Washington could cause enormous ash clouds, one of them being Mount Hood, Mount St. Helens, enormous ash clouds, and these have potential to cover Seattle in ash, shutting down both airports and seaports. Modeling estimates that Mount Rainier, 59 miles south of Seattle, could cause economic losses up to $7 trillion in the 5 years that follow that type of an eruption. Now, researchers also identified Luzon Strait in South China Sea as another risk, as well as Malacca Strait, through which 40% of global trade passes each year. Slightly closer to home, they warned that a reawakening of Icelandic volcanoes could disrupt some of the busiest air routes in the West. An increase in seismic activity detected in the Reykjanes Peninsula of Iceland at the end of last year, though it seems to have fizzled out since then. But we do have a lot of earthquake activity in the Mid-Atlantic Trench. For example, just one today, 5.3 magnitude, Mid-Atlantic, and also before that, 3 days ago, 5.1 again. So there are huge earthquakes there. So this is on Express UK by Charlie Pittock. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.